Well,
All
welcome
right.
everybody. Oh, Cliff, go ahead.
That's fine. I was going to say hi to everyone and welcome. Again, we are glad to have you here with us as we cover the career milestones number 3 and 4 for this part of the series. Again, my name is Cliff Guerin. I am one of the advisors here at the Career and Professional Development Center with my colleagues today.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Baumgartner. I'm also a career advisor and happy to be here with you today.
Hi, I'm Jess Deal. I support the career advising team, and we're really excited to be talking with you today. Thanks so much for joining.
All right. So again, welcome to those who will be with us today. Just as a reminder, we will be recording this. So if you need to take care of any personal business, if you are called away, don't worry because we will be recording this session and everybody will get a copy of it in due time. So what we want to share with you today with our attendees is this, championing our students toward career pathways and success. And today we're going to cover career milestones 3 and 4, and we will be able to talk to you in detail about that. But first, we want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do here at the Career Center. So if this is your first time joining us, we want to share with you a little bit about our background and what your learners can expect when they come visit us in our office. We are a mighty team of 8 advisors, and we want to share some numbers with you because I do think that it's really interesting to see that at any one time we are serving more than, by this time, but truly close to 150,000 active students with another 334,000 alumni. So when we put this together, just consider that those numbers, that out of 8 advisors, a potential of 484,000 learners come through our doors, so our virtual doors, so to speak, for advice, assistance, career goal setting, career related assistance and support of any kind. Those interactions can be probably around 5,000 or more times per month. That could be from calls, it could be from emails, any kind of interaction that's there. Why we believe this is important to look at the numbers is that we are not just contained in our own little world here in career services, but I like to call the entire university an ecosystem, for an ecosystem that touches every other department, every other service here at the university. So when we talk about career conversations, it's not just us, but it's all of you as well. All of our faculty, all of our different departments, all of the folks who interact with students and potential students all have a role in speaking career languages. And so we like to look at the numbers and then put it into context as far as what do we have to offer? What does this look like as far as everyday interactions? And so at this point, I would like to hand it over to Dorothy, and she'll talk about our offerings and what we do here at the Career and Professional Development Center.
So I just want to reiterate what Cliff said. Your partnership with us is really vital as we, and I want to just emphasize it's not our intent to ask you to take on the role of career advisors, turn you into little mini career counselors, but we are hoping to multiply the points of delivery across the university about our services and resources. And so with you having a little bit of knowledge about where to help point students, that is incredibly helpful to us. So thank you for your partnership in this. So what we'd like to emphasize is some of the resources that we have are, we have a really deep bench of resources that are available to students and alumni on demand. And these are available to alumni after they graduate. So these are through our website. We have multiple resources. We have guides throughout our website that are available for students depending on what stage of their career journey they're in. So career exploration, career planning, things, internships, gaining experience, things like that. So all of those are available all the time. And if you aren't familiar with our website, we do have, we did do a presentation earlier this year with a kind of a guided tour through those, and we'd be happy to make that available to you if that would be helpful. We also do blogs on popular career topics, and those just come out usually a couple times a month. And that's also a great resource for students to search if they need support on specific topics. I really want to emphasize this next section, the real-time learning. We are finding that the educational workshops that we're doing with for students and alumni are very useful for them. It's a great way to access an introduction to overview of best practice. So for example, if they're beginning, if they're working on the resume, we cover best practices, some of the tips and strategies that they need to develop their resume, and then point them to additional resources and support. So each of those workshops are a great entry point in terms of networking, interviewing, career changers, imposter syndrome. We do quite a variety of different sort of workshops. So please encourage your students to check out our events. Some of those events are also opportunities to connect with employers through Handshake, our internal platform where we're connecting students and employers. Some of those are also training events, but some of them are just meet and greet opportunities with recruiters from companies that students are targeting. So those kinds of opportunities are another great place to point students to. We also have several platforms that are available to students all the time. The Career Coach tool has some assessments and opportunities to search for jobs in geographical regions. It's a nice tool to help students make some decisions in terms of career path and specific kinds of titles they're targeting. Handshake, again, is that platform where students and employers meet, and we host all of our events. And then we also have another one called Big Interview, which is a terrific practice platform and interview resource program that's available to students. And so if you have students that are preparing for interviews, that's a great place to point them. That is available also on our website underneath our interview section. And then we have services, which comprise of document reviews that we do about, we will review resumes and cover letters and LinkedIn profiles, and those are individual reviews that career advisors do and provide written responses to our students. And we do this career coaching, career advising, these one-on-one appointments. So one of the reasons we wanted to show you this slide, going back to the numbers that Cliff was talking about, is a lot of times, you know, what we'll hear from students, oh, my mentor told me to make an appointment with you, which is great. And yet, if that's the first point of contact for us, that is obviously not sustainable or scalable for us. So as you are able to point students to resources first, and then we can be available to help with really individualized individual needs that students have. So those educational pieces are one of the things we really want to emphasize, that you can help us get out to students. So we are going to shift now to talk about the milestones we've been talking about. This is a model that we've been developing in career and professional development. Some of you may have joined us for 1 and 2. If you're new to this, Jess is going to give you a little bit of an overview of what this model is.
Absolutely. And thanks again for those who have gone through this, but we're happy to talk about where we've been and where we're going. So earlier this year, we were working with our career life cycle moments, these 8 stages along a student's pathway, and you know what we expect or what we would want them to get out of their career journey at that time. We looked at that model a little bit a couple months ago, determined that we could kind of condense it a little bit and make it a little bit more specific. So our life cycle moments have now transitioned into our milestones, and you've heard us using that language here today. There are 7 milestones on the student's journey, and this particular milestone wheel, and then on the next page in a second we'll look at the associated definitions. Those are not yet being formally surfaced to students, so they are kind of out there circulating around, and we do know that in coming months, we will be activating our faculty even more to continue to embed these career milestones into their work, as well as working with some of our faculty teams at a leadership level and such to ensure that the messages that they're receiving and any programs we're developing moving forward will include career competencies and will track along these milestones so that we can really be having a comprehensive and focused student journey around this wheel. And so looking at the next page, here are the definitions, and I know these are a little bit small, but again, we will be sending out a copy of this and you can zoom in a little bit. But when we look at this model, one thing I think that's really important to keep in mind is that this is an aspirational model. So we would love it if every student came in at step 1 and said, I think I know what my career goal is, I've written a SMART goal, and here I go down this path. But the reality is that because we get students, so many students from so many unique situations, students may fall at different places around this wheel. And they may also move in between different milestones in maybe a non-sequential way. So while this is a model that we are following, we emphasize that it is aspirational because we don't expect that every student will fall into this wheel. But the good thing is that we are developing associated activities and resources for each of these steps along the way. So wherever a student comes in, they have the ability to be served, where they are and where they need to go, and we'll have resources and activities to get them there. So, all right. So, next slide, please. As we are thinking about milestones today, last time we met, we did 1 and 2, so the career goal identified and plan developed. And now today we're looking at milestone 3, which is experiential learning, and milestone 4, which is learning and professional connections expanded. And so when we use the phrase experiential learning, we're talking about kind of internships or on-the-job opportunities, and learning and professional connections expanded. We're going to be looking at networking and finding opportunities to engage with a peer group. So at this point, I think we're at the next slide now. Yes.
Yes. So when we look at milestone 3, and we're calling this experiential learning completed, what we're talking about, and sort of the outcome, if you will, for our learners, is that from this experience, they'll have that ability to build and demonstrate and add to those relevant skills that gain practical experience that they need for their goals, and they can apply those real, fundamental and practical learning experiences that come from internships, micro internships. Micro internships are going to be, baby internships. So they're going to be smaller kind of internships where it may be a very defined time of maybe filling the gap between experiences and skills that they need. They can do volunteer experiences. They can analyze case studies, anything that allows them to have some hands-on experience according to their career path, what they want to do with their degrees, why they came to WGU. It could be, even if they're in a job, they can do projects on the job to document what they're learning, getting those experiences. They could do field experiences if they're in a particular industry that has those times where they can shadow professionals in their field, and then even online simulations. So if they're in the IT college, they can do GitHub projects. They can do all kinds of different online simulations, add it to their resume, add it to their experiences that they could talk during an interview. So the experiential learning is both a learning component to the experiences that they gain according to the career plans that they have. So with that in mind, we'll continue to look at milestone 3 and some of the activities and resources that we have to help our students gain experience.
So we know that your time with students is one-on-one is precious and often limited. And so we've tried to curate some resources and activities that you can access quickly to help point students as you, in the course of your conversation, discover where they are. So for milestone 3, these are some of them that we highly recommend. One is, I mentioned that we have guides throughout our website, and one of them is this Exploring Current Work Opportunities guide. So this, and I believe Jess is going to be dropping some of those links into the chat so you can retrieve those. This is a guide that walks students through a process of looking for opportunities in their current place of work if they're currently employed, to request additional responsibilities or experiences, so this can help them. And all of these guides, as I mentioned, are kind of a structured approach to go through these particular steps. So they're step by step, walking through what to do next, and that they've got links and associated activities or prompts in some cases to help students with that process. So that's the Work Opportunities Guide. We always encourage students to network. Start building that network, start leveraging that network. A lot of students wait until they're almost ready to graduate, start to look for jobs to do this. But one of the things about networking that's critically important is to start having career conversations connections early. And those can be focused on research about really learning more about different kinds of job opportunities and different job titles. So we do encourage them to start early. We've got a great workshop about that. We've got a series of workshops that helps them with LinkedIn, social media, and doing networking. And so we'd encourage you to steer them to that, to start early, both in terms of research and building those connections so that network is in place and ready when they're actively looking for jobs. Researching employers is another really important activity to start to identify employers and companies that they're really interested in. And so the resource that Jess just put into the chat is another one that can help support students with that process. We also encourage students to think about volunteering, which is something that often gets missed. But if they are members of affinity groups or faith communities or community groups, all of those are places where they can explore opportunities to offer their services to get some hands-on experience to add to their skills and to their credential building. Internships is another way, obviously, to get some of that experiential learning. We are looking more intentionally at how we're offering internships across WGU. Currently, this is a student-driven activity, and we do have resources that are available to help them find them. There's another guide that can help them walk step by step through that process. And this guide in particular has a list of internship resources with links to those sites where students can search for those opportunities. And I just want to make a point of saying that there are such things as micro internships, which a lot of people aren't aware of. And there is a link there that's for a company that specifically does micro internships. Those may be really useful for some of our students. And so those, they're shorter, project-based. I think many of them or most of them are remote and many or most are paid. So that's a company called Parker Dewey, and that link is pretty obvious in the section where they list those internships. So that is the internship and volunteer search guide that can be really helpful for your students that are looking for experience. And then I'm actually going to mention, I didn't talk about this with my team, but I'm going to mention another resource that I'd love to encourage you to share with your students. There's a company called Forge that we have a partnership with that offers virtual simulations for free for students. And these are short simulations. Jess, if you can maybe quickly look that up and drop that in, thank you. These are opportunities that companies have partnered with Forge to create these simulations, for the most part based on actual projects that real employees in their companies did. So like, for example, I don't know if it's still there, but I haven't looked at it for a while, but for a long time, the first one that came up for me when I was looking in their catalog was a cybersecurity opportunity with MasterCard. And what happens is students register for these and they get the information about doing this project. That one was a 2-hour experience. And so they do the project and submit it, and then they get to see the actual work product that the employee did, and they can redo their work and resubmit it. And then once they're completed and evaluated, they get language for credentials to put onto their resume and their LinkedIn profile. This is a great way for students to get really short-term hands-on experience. I've never seen one that's longer than 8 hours. And Forge's statistics are that students or candidates who have completed one of these simulations are 4 times more likely to get a job with that company than a general candidate. So if they do a 2-hour cybersecurity virtual simulation with MasterCard and they want to work for MasterCard, that enhances their candidacy by 4 times. So it's a great opportunity that a lot of people don't know about. So you may, and it's really, that's the kind of thing I recommend that students try to do a couple of those as they're in the process of applying for internships. So it can help them with their skill building and their credentials to enhance those applications. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jess to talk about the workforce recruitment program.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dorothy. Just a quick note on Workforce Recruitment Program, or WRP. Information about this went out to our student body, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, August 24th, and it went out through Handshake for anyone who had an account. So for your knowledge, Workforce Recruitment Program is a federal program that connects individuals with disabilities with both federal sector and private companies who are eager to work with, who have committed to hiring those with disabilities. And so the way this process works is that Here at the university, we offer students the opportunity to engage in this program, and they receive support through this department as well as in partnership with our accessibility services team. And then students are identified and go through an informational interview process and have the ability to meet with recruiters and potentially representatives of companies who are seeking to diversify and continue to engage with those with disabilities. And so we do really encourage students to participate in this. It is something that they do kind of have to self-select into. So like I said, everyone with a handshake account received this email, and the students work directly with our accessibility services department to determine eligibility. So that is not a concern for us, but it's another really great and unique way to connect motivated students with potential employees. Employers. So we wanted to make note of that. And yes, and
So,
we can, yes, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Jess.
The application continues through October 16th. So there's a little bit more time. I'm done.
So as you're getting a sense about this, it's really easy this is just a peek at some of the resources we have, and it's really easy to just sort of rain resources down on students, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. And so one of the things that we really focus on in our office is really engaging students in conversation when we can, as much as we can. And so one of the things that we wanted to offer to you as well, because of we know your time around to take the opportunity to have career conversations with students is limited, is that we are developing some prompts for each one of these milestones. And our encouragement is to really think about using powerful questions to get the most out of those conversations as possible. So we want to really encourage you. We're developing prompts for every one of those. And again, we will, this is something that eventually, once we've gone through all these milestones and developed these resources, that'll be packaged in a nice way for you to easily access. But we want to get them into your hands right away. So we want to encourage you to use powerful questions with students, to try to stay away from yes and no questions. Try to ask questions that are open-ended and generative. And so we have on the next slide developed some that we want to offer to you. We're sure you have many of your own, but if you're in the moment and you're looking for a quick resource, you might want to grab some of these and help start some of those conversations. So I just wanted to encourage the use of thinking, being thoughtful about the kinds of questions that we're asking students to help generate those conversations. So I think Cliff is going to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah. And this is, again, to go off what Dorothy said, and a little bit of our part of our introduction, that, when you're having these career conversations with your learners, it's better to put them in a context of kind of a, tell me about, kind of those behavioral based questions, not yes and no's, like, do you have a career goal? Yes. And that's it. But tell me about your career goal. What did you find most useful as you were looking at what you want to do with your degree here from WGU? And let them have that narrative and go through that particular question. So these are samples that can help you definitely use these. They can help you launch into your own questions. One of my favorites is the first one. So, and I use this during my conversations with students who will make appointments with us. And I'll say, tell me about your past experience. Tell me about the jobs you had and the roles you had. What did you like best about these jobs? And how do you believe that these would prepare you for the next job that's there? Oftentimes, which research actually has shown us, is that they'll actually do the opposite. And they'll say, you know what? I'll tell you what I didn't like about my job. And it's like, fine. What did you not like? And then what's left over, the things that you are positive about, put those in a separate list, if you will, and then go with that. Just real quickly, I'm a military veteran. And so when I would go around on ships and on bases, and I would talk to the folks who were working, in the bowels of a ship, so to speak, the number one tip I was given was ask them about their job. They love it. They love to talk about their job. What are you doing? Tell me about how this works, and what do you like best about what you do day in and day out? That's where this first question comes from. That's the kind of engagement that you can get those, you may not even stop them talking once that ball starts rolling. And so these types of questions to engage students about their experiences and what they've learned from them is where this milestone 3 comes from. Next, we have Jess. We're going
All
to
right.
stop. We're going to take a pause. We're going to stop here a little bit, and Jess is going to walk us through a little bit about what to talk about.
Yeah.
And just quickly before you jump into that, I did get a question in the chat, so I
Oh,
just
yeah,
want to make
I'm
sure the
sorry.
question was about sharing these links with students. Any of the links that have been put in the chat, any of them that you see here in this presentation, please do feel free to share any or all of them with our students. That's part of why we want to get this out into your hands so you're aware of them and you can help point students to them.
Absolutely. And many of them are behind the SSO, so they will need to be signed in to get those. So we wanted to have a little bit of generative discussion, if you all wouldn't mind. I know it might be a little post-lunch for some of us, but kind of stopping to survey you all as well, because one thing that Dorothy mentioned is that we can have a lot of resources and they can rain down, but we always want to make sure we're having the best resources too, and we want to know things that we don't. We want to know what we don't know, and that's where we also see our faculty partners as being key in this process. Is that there may be some things we don't know that that are effective or that are helpful in your conversations, especially as you're speaking to industry specific, students in the same field you've been in, or in a field you're supporting. And so we'd love to have a little bit of comment, and you can either come off mute or you can type it in the chat. That's fine. That's fine too. But we have two prompts here. What resources are you aware of that you would utilize, either general or industry specific? We can start with that one. So is there anyone here, especially in a specific niche area, that has a really great resource for experiential learning that students might, that we might not be aware of and students would benefit from? And maybe I should also frame that might just be one you like, you enjoy using, anything like that. I know sometimes we have a little trouble with mute, unmute. So if anyone's trying to unmute, go ahead and type in the chat box because we're keeping our eyes on that too. All right. Well, if there are no specific resources right now, oh, hey, there we go. Lauren, in nursing, we are encouraged to join professional organizations, AACN. Yes, absolutely. I think we're actually going to touch on that in a little bit here. So that's great. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that. Oh, we are muted. All right. How do we unmute
I
here?
think that's a webinar problem, actually.
Okay.
So let's see.
Allie, if you...
Yeah,
Might be a WebEx thing.
Well, you just unmuted me.
Oh, there we go.
yeah, I see.
But I really don't have anything to say because I wanted to come and learn about this. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, we can mull on that one for a little bit. But the second one, if any of you are in the process of having career conversations, maybe not through the Milestones lens as we've been looking, but just with your students in general, do you have any prompts or questions that you find to be really effective when you're trying to understand, where a student is, what help they might need, what gaps they might need to fill? And I guess because there is a mute situation, if you would like to talk, please feel free to pop in the chat or something and we can try to unmute you individually.
Or just say unmute me and I'll.
Yes. Heather says trying to make an association between current skills in the job and the future job. Okay, chef to accounting. So transferable skills, that's a big thing we talk about. And then Les, thank you. In the Teachers College, I direct students to when they need to update their resume, and then always include your link in their grad letter. I want to be more proactive in your resources. Thank you, Les. We really appreciate that. One of the things I will kind of, while we're thinking, is on the previous slide when Cliff was talking about the questions that we can ask, I think one of the things that can also happen in this particular case is a student might say, I have no idea, or I don't know what I need, or I don't know where to start, or something like that. And that can be kind of a tough place, you know, for students to be. So we want to also advise you that that's an okay place for students to be. Say, I don't know where to find resources. I don't know how to close these gaps. Because starting the conversation and giving the student the opportunity to voice that lets us begin to help support them in a very targeted way. So, you know, if you are in a conversation with a student and you're saying, you know, tell me about your past experiences, and they're not offering much up, you know, perhaps changing the question, perhaps saying, you know, do you have concerns with this? Are you nervous about something like this? You know, kind of opening the door and understanding that students may not be ready to meet you there yet, but we can still get them the resources and the information so that when they are ready, they can begin exploring, or they will have a good foundation under them. Okay, and Michael says, I love the gap analysis tools. Yes, Pluralsight and LinkedIn Learning to look up specific career trainings. That's a great call out there. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to milestone 4. How about we? Okay, so in milestone 3, we were talking about experiential learning, and now here we are talking about learning and professional connections expanded. So this again is kind of going into that networking arena and making connections within your, you know, your peer groups and your professional communities, and using and leveraging those to your advantage.
That's exactly right. This is what I call the great American know-who. It's kind of who do you know that's out there in the field? Who do you know, and or who can you become familiar with or reach out to? So this social capital, as we call it, that's built on that academic and professional experiences and connections, can really leverage that career advancement, not only now, but really for a lifetime. And so even with folks that I know who are career changers, I always ask them, who do you know from your previous careers, your previous jobs, that could be assets that you can lean on, that you can continue to build those relationships, because that's going to be really vitally important as we move into this area about professional connections and expanding it again the entire lifetime of your career development. Career development is not just when you get a job, it's when it starts, when you get a job, and you continue to develop this all throughout your career life cycle. So really important to build those relationships and those connections.
So we're going to continue to reinforce that networking activity and those tools. And this again is another link which will take you to some of our networking resources. And Cliff, are you pulling those up?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is on our website. And so the link that you get here, and again, you know, when we send this out, we'll have the links attached to it. If you don't capture them, they're going in the chat, but if you don't catch all of these, we'll send them out afterwards as well. But this goes right to our website, and that's really tiny on my screen, Cliff, so I don't know what you're highlighting there. Wait, were you trying to point something out there?
Yeah, I was just, how's that? How's that? Is that big?
It's a little bit better. It's also smaller on my, yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and we really think about networking as building mutually beneficial business relationships and partnerships throughout their career. So, you know, we talked about it earlier in terms of starting early for researching purposes, and then now building those relationships to help benefit you throughout your careers, as Cliff was talking about. So we've got a couple of different networking examples here. One is that. The next one is some networking message examples. So if you have students who say, I don't know how to approach somebody. One thing I'd recommend is you send them to the networking workshops, because that can really help you. But this resources is something you can grab very quickly in the moment. The Muse is a terrific career resource company. And so if you're not familiar with it, I subscribe to their newsletter and often pick up some really great tools or tips from them. So, but this article will help your students. You can just shoot them this link, and that can help them get started with those networking requests. So then really what networking is creating those connections and then having the conversations. I mean, essentially, that's a lot of what networking really is. And so we've called them networking messages, or excuse me, our informational interviews in the past. There's some shift in talking about career conversations, and so we are using those pretty interchangeably now. But these are opportunities for students to be to have a specific prepared, prepare for a specific conversation about the kinds of things that they're wanting to learn. We encourage students not to think that this is for an opportunity for them to say, I'm looking for a job. Do you know of any? But really to think about them as career conversations where they are learning. It's obvious when you're having a networking conversation that you're probably in the market or near or soon to be in the market, but we do encourage them to think about it as building a relationship. So here's some, again, a lot of resources that can help them prepare for those informational interviews or career conversations. Another thing that we use in many of our one-on-ones with students is the use of the LinkedIn alumni tool, which is something that a lot of people don't know about. And this is, Cliff is pulling up the WGU site. This is on LinkedIn. This is also true for every other college and university. I believe most of them have access to this tool. So if your students have done a degree somewhere else, I mean, I always encourage them to check any university or college that they've been affiliated with, because this tool gives them the opportunity to have access to all of the alumni who are affiliated with that page. And there's really 3 elements of this tool. Cliff, if you can scroll back up a little bit, the primary one is the search bar that you see, and you see we're nearly at 250,000 people who are affiliated with this page. So it is a great resource for students, even just to do the research part. Like, what are students, what are alumni who earned the same degree that I did? What are they doing? What are their job titles? What companies are they working for? So there's the search bar there where you can put anything in there. Of course, when you're doing a search, you may want to think about, if you're doing multiple words, put words in quotations, or you can add multiple words separated by a comma. And what will happen is you'll start to see the profiles of the people that are in the results of that search. And so, Cliff, I didn't actually see what you put in there. What did you use for your search?
Human resources.
Okay, so human resources, and we've got 15,000 alumni. So that's probably a few too many profiles to just be scanning through, right? So we want to try to narrow that down a little bit. So right underneath that search bar and the dates, you see the where they work and where they live. In the upper right corner of that panel, there's a right arrow. Cliff, you got to go up a little bit, yeah. And that gets you, those are the filters. That gets you to some additional filters about what they do, what they're skilled at, what they studied, and how you're connected. So those filters are all available. So you can add any of those filters. You put something in the search bar, then you add those filters to try to narrow down this pool. Obviously, the point of this is to try to identify a group of people that align with your goals and interests, or the students' goals and interests. So this is a way that they can find people who are WGU alumni. So they've had the same experience and the same degree program, and they're working in fields, so they can explore different, as I said, different career titles that these people are in, or companies that they're in. The other thing that we recommend is that people come here, for example, if they find a job listed somewhere else, they can come in and put in the name of the company and see if there's any WGU alumni that are working there that they could connect with and learn some more about the opportunities there. So there are many ways to sort of slice and dice the information that's available in this tool, and it can be very helpful just in terms of looking at other people's profiles who are in your industry, get some ideas about your own LinkedIn profile. But sending connection requests, we encourage students to send connection requests to as many people that are in their area of interest as possible. That's the way you start broadening your network. One of the benefits of that is that it affects what shows up in your feed on LinkedIn. So you're kind of getting into the industry chatter, if you will. You're seeing articles and tools and things that people are posting, conferences that they're going to, but they also post jobs. So one of the things we want to emphasize about the networking, I'm just going to do a little career nerd out statistics for you. And that we follow some national organizations that do research about career pathways and job searches. And consistently over time, those statistics demonstrate that networking is far more effective use of time in terms of a job search than just applying to jobs off of the big job boards. I have seen an article that said the return on investment for just applying for jobs on job boards is about 4% in terms of the investment of time to successfully landing a job, whereas the return on investment in successfully landing a job through networking is over 50%. LinkedIn has a statistic that says within 12 of these kinds of career conversations, on average, you'll have a job offer. So that is why we really, really, really encourage networking. This is a tool that can help students get started doing that, especially if they don't have opportunities that are local or live. This is a great way to start building some connections that can help serve them throughout their career. So thanks for that indulgence, but we want to make sure that you know about it and you can help your students find that as well. And next we are going to, Jess has some additional alumni specific and college specific resources that she wants to share with you on the next slide. You're muted, Jess.
Oh, technology. Thank you. All right, I'm going to drop a couple of these links in here all at once and then talk about what's on the page. So the links that are here are to associations, both national and also a couple that are WGU related that might help students with their connections and networking as well. So the Night Owl Network is probably one you're all familiar with, our alumni network. And that is available through our website. The link will take you there and allows our alumni to connect with one another in that space. We also have, oh yes, thank you. We have one specific or a couple specific College of IT clubs and associations that I think that are definitely worth looking into. I know the Cybersecurity Club is a real big one and has a real active presence. So there are a couple links to WGU cybersecurity clubs located on the link on our website. So that is specific to WGU. Now, the next few links that were provided are actually to national associations because I was not able to find if there were specific ones for WGU students. And that's something that I'm just going to put a general call out. If there are Teachers College, business, or Leavitt School of Health professional associations related to a degree or something, we would love to know more about that. I don't necessarily know if they're here, but the links that were provided to you do send you to nationally recognized groups that, like Lauren brought up the ANA earlier, that's in there, the Association for the Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association. All of those are listed in there, and many of those do have local chapters or a way to network with like individuals who might have generated from a regional area or a school or something like that. So there may be some possibilities in there, but encouraging your students to make those connections, to get involved in membership, to volunteer, to engage, that opens up those doors much more for them. And then finally, there's some other professional organizations and associations listed in that general link that would be accessible to our students as well. So, and then also I put this picture. Oh yes, thank you. The picture that is on the slide also demonstrates a little bit about our Facebook groups. We have quite a lot of activity on the Facebook page. So this is just a screenshot and I apologize that it is small, but I just went into my Facebook and searched WGU and then came up, I probably had 20 some odd hits of different groups, both for current and alumni students, either in a specific college, a specific program, or just, graduates, et cetera. So, there are a lot of opportunities to connect with current students and alumni through, that social media as well. I'm not as aware of any on X or anything like that. We don't have a whole lot of, community type there, but Facebook absolutely does have quite a bit of presence and a lot of activity. So students may find some really good connections in there as well.
All right. So again, we're back to some other practical areas that can help you as faculty when you're talking with your students, your learners. Some of these questions, again, can spark other inspirational questions, but also hit on some pretty good topics that folks can help sort of deflate the anxiety, I guess, if they will. Like question number one, you know, again, it's not a yes or no question, but it's more of tell me how you envision or how you feel when you hear the word networking, when that comes to mind. Uh, and then let them go. Let them explain and talk to you about what that means. I actually had a student yesterday who brought up this similar question, and she said, I keep hearing this term networking, and I have no idea what it means. What does that mean? So that opened up an opportunity to talk about what networking is, both online and offline. Those are two very different activities. And then the resources we have that can help them dig deeper into engaging networking activities and those opportunities to reach out to other folks as well.
And Cliff, if
We-
I could just jump in on that first question, just to tag along a little bit. It's a question that I often use when I am doing our networking workshop is I ask students to put in the chat what the term networking brings up for them. And initially it's building, relationships, making contact. And then I say good or bad, and then I get panic inducing, things like that, so then we can talk about like, what's the real reaction to networking? Let's talk about that and how can we help support you move through that.
That's right. Thanks, Dorothy. I also want to bring up bullet point number 3 because we talked a lot about LinkedIn and we talked about the LinkedIn alumni tool, but Handshake is also another networking opportunity for students to use to reach out to other students that are on Handshake, and they don't even have to be at WGU. If they are at another university, the University of Texas in Austin, the University of Washington, anywhere in the country that has Handshake as part of their career center, they can network with those other schools. And sometimes we'll get students to say, oh, Handshake, I don't know, it's not that great, it's not really working with me. Every student appointment I have, I pull up their Handshake profile and they're usually 15% complete. So they haven't really even touched it since they have kind of logged into Handshake as a tool to be used. It is best utilized when it's 100% complete. And they have a progress bar under their picture that would tell them how far are they with completing their entire profile. It will work better when they have it at 100%. So if you get any conversations or you get any responses about Handshake, that's probably one of the first questions I would ask is when you log into your Handshake account, how complete is your profile? And then you can go from there and build on this question to help them link to the industries, link to the companies that are using Handshake as a way to build those experiential relationships and profiles. We're going to pause again. And here's Jess.
Okay, back to it. So I'm going to skip the first bullet point, but you can see it there. So let's think about any resources that you might be aware of. But let's talk about bullet point number 2, because I think this is a really fun one to explore. How could you, in your faculty roles, help connect students in your programs to one another? Or do you? And if so, how do you do that?
Attend icebreaker.
Okay.
Yeah, Lauren, I'd love to
know more about that. Is that like like do an icebreaker or I don't know, attend an icebreaker? The W, okay.
Sorry.
I unmuted you, Lauren, if you feel comfortable jumping in.
Oh yeah, I was just typing. I didn't realize it. I know in the BSNU program, there's an icebreaker every month that the course instructors have, and that's designed to help students meet each other. And now I just transferred over to Cluster C. So last Monday, they had a student icebreaker, and it was basically, kind of the same thing, get to meet the course instructors and everybody that was in the meeting, gave a little introduction about themselves. So I had 2 students that were in there, so that gave us something to talk about, during our next call. And they've kind of got some things in common. So I'm kind of like the intermediary right now,
Sure.
And the handshake, because I knew about that, but a lot of this other stuff I didn't know about.
Well, that's great. Thank you. I love the idea of linking to the WG communities, which I think is going to continue to grow. You know, those communities that are kind of emerging in student populations. Thank you for raising that, Beth. That's a good idea. I knew a mentor in a previous role here at WGU that used to survey all of her students and kind of see what their current roles were, just what they were currently working in, and would then kind of match them up and say, hey, this might be somebody, you know, that they're also currently working in I think it was a nursing student, so it was like an ICU floor or something. I've got another ICU floor nurse, you two can talk. And I think that it was intended to promote kind of support and relationship building, but that's a great way to to just kind of survey what your students are doing and see if they even know that there are others who are doing the same things. Okay. Well, if any of you have had networking or connection conversations with your students, have you found a question or questions that work really well in kind of opening up the door and drawing them out to have that conversation? I'll give it a few seconds if anyone's typing. Okay, nothing right now. Well, that might be something that I would encourage you to kind of reflect on, especially using the prompts that we have provided in here is, which of these would be easiest for you to navigate? Which one do you think is the most open-ended and would elicit the best responses from your students? So I think I would encourage you all to take a look at these questions as as we move away from this and find one that really speaks to you and see it, challenge to see if you can work it into conversation sometime this week. All right. And then, if anyone does have any industry specific resource, or excuse me, either resources or connection groups that would be helpful for us to know about or be able to link to or something, if you could drop them in the chat or send one of us a message. We're always, again, very eager to find opportunities for students in Leavitt, the College of Business and Education to be able to have some more opportunities to connect here within the university. So if you do have any of those resources or networks, please let us know. All right.
Well, this is our contact page. This is where we live. Kind of our front door is our website. That can be shared, obviously, with everyone that needs to come visit us. If you have questions or ideas later on after the presentation, let the dust settle and you're thinking of some other things, you can email us at careers@wgu.edu. And I'm very comfortable on Teams to receive any Teams messages or ideas. I'm pretty responsive. I think we all are, but certainly is another way for you to make contact with our office. This particular phone number would be for students when they have a really quick question. They need something that's a burning, I need something kind of pretty quick. I can't wait for an appointment. They can call into this number. They will get a prompt to leave a voicemail, and they can leave the information, follow the instructions for that voicemail, and then we will contact them. One of us will contact them that same day. If it gets to be later after 2 p.m. Mountain Time, it may roll over to the next business day. But it certainly is a really good way for them to get some quick information and questions for that. We are on Facebook. We have some pretty good interactions with Facebook. And like I believe Jess and Dorothy, I will get some Facebook questions, not to us specifically, but to the Facebook community. Some of them are career related, and so I'll respond and I'll say, hey, have you ever been to the Career Center? Here's how you can find these particular resources. So we are on Facebook for that reason, as well as LinkedIn for those more professional connections and interactions. But this is how you can find us and to contact us. And we're here to help. Any other closing messages from Jess or Dorothy?
Well, I
None
just want to
from
say
me.
it's really a privilege that you've shared this time with us today. We really appreciate your spending this time. And again, our partnership with you, your partnership with us is so valuable to us. And we're really grateful and like astounded at all the work that all of you do. And so we know that our little ask about, passing on some of these resources is another thing. But we hope that it will help equip you a little bit better to have those really important conversations with your students in terms of where they are and their journey. So thanks so much for being here today. And please let us know if there's anything we can do to help support you.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks.